Hi everyone, and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell. You can find me on Twitter at UtterlyTC, and I'm so excited to be back to bring to you another Meet the Elite team reveal. And this week we've got Dan Bennett on the line to join us and take us through his Game Week 13 and Game Week 14. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Dan, hi, how's it going, mate? Really good to have you back on the channel. How has your season been going?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Thanks. Yeah, it's been an interesting season.
Mm-hmm.
Not as last season. A lot of us hit the lofty heights quite early, but this season's been a bit more of a slog.
Yeah,
but still been enjoying it.
Good man.
Haaland has been sensational, hasn't he?
He has. He's changed the game, hasn't he? I mean, it's one of those ones where are we now playing a 14-player game, you know, and it just kind of rendered both that pick and the captaincy, you know, redundant from the game, I guess. But what can you do? You can't not pick him, can you? The way he's been going.
Yeah, you got to adapt. And,
adapt and overcome.
Lots of points elsewhere on offer.
Yeah. So look, guys, just very quickly, I want to say welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel, as I say, and to this Meet the Elite team reveal. Apologies, there's been a bit of a delay there. I've had some tech challenges on my side. Hopefully they have been resolved and that you can hear us loud and clear, and so excited to get back amongst this series and talk to you about how our elite managers have been doing. And you can see then, and it's great to have Dan back on the channel. Dan has done sensationally in the past. And look, in terms of your season this season, Dan, how would you say it's been going? You've got your live rank there of right around the 200k, just over 200k mark. How do you think it's been going for you so far? Bearing in mind, you know, you've used that game week, that first wild card chip back in game week 8. How's the season been going, and how has it been sort of post wild card for you?
Yeah, wild card 8 was okay. I think I was about 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, slow progress. Although today's not been very good.
Okay,
the live rank's about at 300k now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of football to be played. 38 game weeks.
Yeah,
I've been here many times before. I'm still confident of pushing on.
There you go, guys. So you're hearing from an elite manager there after just I guess we're about a third of the way through, aren't we, Dan? And it's a weird season with the World Cup sort of basically making it sort of 2 seasons and then combining the 2 at the end, I guess. But the advice there, or the steer from Dan, is that you can still finish strong. So look, you've accrued a lot of team value there already. You just used the one wild card. There's obviously going to be that opportunity to overhaul the squad in the World Cup as well. So like you say, heaps and heaps to come, you know, throughout the course of the season. Who do you think has been your kind of? You mentioned Haaland already, Dan. I mean, he's going to be pretty ubiquitous, isn't he? But in terms of the other players who've really done you proud and led you to that rank that you've got so far, who's been your sort of standouts from the first part of the season?
So Solanke did well for me on the wild card. He had 20 points in 2 game weeks recently. He's playing Monday night tomorrow, so hope another goal there. But yeah, he's done well. Who else really? Very template elsewhere.
Well, we're going to get into that, you know, and that has been. You and I were talking off air, weren't we, about the fact it's been, you know, not the game playing itself, but actually a lot of the decisions seem quite sensible, I guess, in terms of the ones you've made so far, and quite straightforward.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I had some transfers planned on my game week 8 wildcard, and it pretty much panned out as I expected.
Yeah,
a couple of injuries and suspensions. Madison and James had to deal with.
Yeah. What can you do with things like that? Goodness me, that late yellow card. Yeah, well, he's had some redemption today. So I should just say, for the benefit of people watching on YouTube, Dan and I are recording this on Sunday afternoon in British time. So we are part way through the Sunday games, aren't we, Dan? We got the Newcastle Spurs game, or Spurs hosting Newcastle, I should say, just underway. So still some games going on. But let's talk briefly, Dan, about how Game Week 13 has been going for you. Do you want to give us the highlights? Are there lots of highlights to discuss?
There's no highlights. Mitrovic got us a penalty, a goal again. Andreas on the bench, unfortunately, with 2 assists. His highest return of the season, 10 points with the bonus points, I think.
Yeah.
But other than that, I could do with Newcastle keeping Spurs out. But
okay, interesting.
That'll double clean sheet, hopefully.
Well, fingers crossed. I mean, it sounds like our teams are pretty similar, actually, from what you described there. I've got the same Andreas Pereira sitting on my bench as well. But, Mitrovic starting and Maddison as well. So some points there. So it doesn't feel like it's going to be too many lost to the field, does it, this week, Dan? But this game's all about looking forward, isn't it? So that's a quick rundown on how you've done so far, and nice to catch up as well. But let's move on and take a look at, should say, very early days that this is looking forward into game week 14, guys. And I'm sure Dan might have some thoughts about whether or not this team will actually be the one he starts with. But let's check out how you're looking or scheduled to be lining up for game week 14. So normally, guys, what I would do here is reveal these position by position, but Dan and I were talking offline, and actually there's some thoughts that you might want to tweak things a little bit, Dan. So right now you're looking at this 4-4-2 formation. You've decided to stick with the captaincy on Haaland. You are one of the people who own Mo Salah, and obviously he has that home fixture against Leeds. So let's say, before you talk about how you're potentially thinking about altering this formation and possibly some early thoughts about sort of transfer plans, Dan, Mo Salah, talk to me. What's the plan in relation to Salah and all of that money that you've invested in the Liverpool midfielder? How are you seeing it?
Yeah, I did KDB to Salah on the blank game last week. Unfortunately, blanked as captain. Blanked again at Forest, and KDB obviously goes and scores.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely keeping Salah home to Leeds. I know he's a lot of money, but captain's on Haaland, so I'm not thinking of captaining Salah.
No.
Returns without the captaincy will be welcomed.
Yeah.
But then in 15, I'm tempted to look at moving. He's away at Spurs in game week 15.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether I could perhaps try to roll the transfer this week, go into game week 15 with 2 transfers. Maybe Salah to Bowen, perhaps. And then perhaps I could look at a striker upgrade, perhaps. Harry Kane against Liverpool. Liverpool aren't doing very well.
They're not. I mean, what do you think, Dan? Is there any merit in, if you were able, let's say, for example, that there are no, wouldn't it be nice, no injuries, no disasters, and actually you've got this squad of 15 and you're able to hold what looks like a strong squad going into 14, you're able to hold that transfer. Would you have any interest in holding and then turning Mo Salah into Kevin De Bruyne and moving Foden to another mid to upper price midfielder? Is there any interest in getting KDB in and making that Man City treble up involve De Bruyne rather than Foden?
Yeah, Foden did fantastically. I think he got 30 points in 4 game weeks.
Yeah, he's been immense.
But KDB did okay. I think it 24, 26 points. Yeah. But I think I'm going to hold Foden now. He had a bench in after 10 starts in a row in the league. Yeah. But yeah, I'm happy with Foden.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
So I'm just going to hope KDB doesn't punish me.
No, I mean, it's one of those ones, isn't it, with De Bruyne, when he has been fit over the years, that he's the sort of the 200-point magnet, isn't he, over the season, if you can guarantee him the minutes. So do wonder if we'll look back on that and just be like, wow, it's another season of De Bruyne churning out these points. So look, it'll be interesting. For what it's worth, though, your advice is that, Mo Salah is a hold, obviously, for the Leeds home game. You'd no interest in removing him before that one, and then longer term you'd look to use him as part of a double transfer move, right?
Possibly, yeah. I think that's the play. I think a lot of people have been looking at Zaha to Saka as a transfer this week, but I'm just tempted to keep Zaha. Saka blanked again today. I'm just tempted to keep and reassess with 2 transfers in game week 15.
Yeah, and I mean, if the guys have headed over to fantasyfootballfix.com's fixture analyzer, which Dan and I are looking at as well, Palace rank top in terms of the fixtures from an attacking perspective. Now, this run will straddle, I believe, the World Cup, so it's pretty long lens here. But the Southampton home fixture followed by a trip to West Ham, Nottingham Forest, who've looked a bit better, haven't they, defensively? They feel a bit more secure now. Home game to Fulham and away match against Bournemouth. I mean, in terms of those next 5, Wilf looks a pretty good option, right, Dan? You wouldn't be shocked if he returned in the majority of those games.
Yeah, definitely. He's the talisman, isn't he? He's goal and assist in the last few games. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I know Southampton did well today with a draw against Arsenal.
Yeah, they were more impressive second half, weren't they?
Yeah, I'm hoping something from Zaha.
Okay, well, look, we're going to need to talk to you about this defence then, Dan. So, I mean, Trippier has been just an outstanding FPL pick from game week 1, hasn't he? It really has been points magnet. We'll see how he does today in the Spurs game, and the Pope double up there in terms of the Newcastle backline has been, prosperous as well. You're less enamoured by Gueye at Crystal Palace, correct?
Yes, he was a transfer in the blank game week. I took out James for Gueye to free up some cash.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, nothing in the last 2 game weeks. No. Should have gone for someone like Castagna or James Justin. Yeah. They've both done well. But yeah, that's disappointing. So I actually had him in, as you can see, I've got him in the starting in my bus team. But so the predicted points for Gueye are higher than Andreas. Yeah. However, after today's showing, with Andreas has two assists, I'm sure he'll be buzzing for the next game already. So I think I'm likely going to play Andreas ahead of Gueye going into game week 15,
I like it.
14. So.
Yeah, those predicted points metrics from Fantasy Football Fix as well will update following today's games as well, which will feature filter into that algorithm projection as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I mean, I don't know if you caught that Palace trip to Everton. I know that it was a 3-0 win and a great result for Everton after what had been a pretty miserly run there. I think actually I was poking fun at them on Twitter in terms of them. They hadn't actually managed a shot on target in more than two games before that one. But I didn't actually think Palace acquitted themselves too badly offensively in that game. Personally, that was my reading of the game just from watching the highlights. But it'd be an interesting one to see how that play out. And that fixture, and we just mentioned with Zaha in mind, is still decent for Gueye, so you wouldn't be averse to having him as a first sub anyway, right?
Okay, yeah, that's promising. I haven't caught the highlights
well,
yet.
I'll see what you think. That was my read as well. Look, in terms of Perisic then, Dan, obviously a lot of talk about him at the beginning of the season. I guess he's been hot and cold playing in a back five in certain setups under Conte. How has it been owning him? Have you owned him for a long period? Is he a newcomer into the team? How's he been doing for you, and what are your thoughts about his prospects in your team ongoing?
Yeah, I've had him since the start of the season, actually.
Okay.
I was just excited. I benched him for the first 2 game weeks. I think he wasn't up to speed just at the start of the season. But yeah, he's had a couple of decent returns. I think he got 8 points home to Everton week before last. Yeah. I benched him this week, and as predicted, he's on the bench today against Newcastle. So yeah, he's not my usual pick, to be honest. I like guaranteed minute men.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but I'm hoping to get a couple of hauls from him away at Bournemouth in 14.
Yeah.
16, he's got a decent game, I believe.
He's got Leeds at home in 16. You're right. He's got that Liverpool game in 15 as well.
I just got to try and predict
whether or not he plays. Yeah, that's it. But I think you're right. He's sort of a haul potential. You feel like at some point there's going to be a haul there. And again, look, longer lens, isn't it? It's that from 16 through 19, you're looking at Leeds, Brentford, Aston Villa and Crystal Palace. So maybe that aligns itself to your Harry Kane thought as well. Who knows in terms of moving the money around elsewhere in your transfers as well.
Yeah, post wildcard, I might post World Cup. Sorry, I might look at Doherty instead for a cheaper price.
Yeah.
So
well, he's found his way back in, hasn't he?
A couple of the other elite managers have got him.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, he's found himself more in favour, hasn't he, in Conte's thoughts more recently, hasn't he? And we know what an FPL darling he's been in previous seasons as well. So that's an interesting one, and obviously a nice cost saving as well. I've got to ask you, Dan, as well, sort of more broad brush strategic type question. You've got Solanke on the bench here for game week 14 intended. Obviously you might change that, and I know it's a tough fixture against a defensive team in Spurs who've defended well under Conte. Not a great showing at Old Trafford last week. Is that something you're happy to do, Dan? Put your forward on the bench and trust elsewhere. It's something that I've heard other elite managers say. You play your forwards because it can take just one defensive error, or if they're on penalties, etc. Is it something that you're totally comfortable doing and would recommend?
It's the first time I'm doing it. I think.
Okay.
It's mainly Andreas.
Yeah.
I know I've had him all season. He's 4.5. I think he's 4.6 now. But he's playing, and his output is more of a 6.5 mid-mil.
It is. Yeah.
So I'm just playing the fixtures. Fixtures are king for me.
Yeah.
So okay. I'm just playing the fixtures really, hoping. And if I played him, I'd sort of be backing against Perisic. I'd have Perisic in defence and Solanke up front. So I'm sort of.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Just going for the upside really of hoping for a Solanke blank and Perisic Hall.
Yeah. It's always that tricky juxtaposition, isn't it, where you've got your attackers against defenders, and what's the best you're hoping for if you start them both. It feels quite a negative thing to do, to start them both, because one of them you feel is likely to be missing out, doesn't it? Let's talk Arsenal for a minute then, Dan. You've got Martinelli in there. No points today in terms of attacking returns. I caught that game and he looked typically lively and creative, particularly first half. Any thoughts on whether or not you're looking to supplement him with any other Arsenal players? And indeed, are you happy to sort of keep faith with him at that price point? Presumably you've built up quite a bit of value in him. What are your thoughts on Arsenal assets ongoing?
Yeah, the game week 8 wildcard, I had a plan where, one of the plans was selling him, but I'm glad I've held on to him. I think the game week 13 wildcard has probably tripled up on Arsenal.
Yeah.
So they got a bit unlucky today with the draw against Southampton. Yes, I have been looking at Saka or possibly a defender such as Gabriel. Or
you consider Ben White?
Yeah, Ben White's cheap, isn't he? I think I probably would have gone for Ben White. In fact, I might still do at some point.
He picked up the assist today. I wouldn't describe him as sort of prime Cafu just yet, but he's.
I've heard he's growing into that right back role.
I mean, I was quite impressed by how he played. I still think of him in that centre half position being more where he's naturally suited. Having seen him play well at Brighton, but look, I mean, he's been playing there, and the team have been fantastic, haven't they? So at that price, and if he is going to get forward and put crosses into the box, then what's not to like, I guess, at that price point. And
agreed. Yeah,
I don't know whether or not would you see that as, because I guess the alternative there, Dan, is to focus completely on attack and supplement Martinelli with a Saka in midfield as another attacker, and then Gabriel Jesus up front. Another blank for Jesus today. I still think he's a terrific pick, but do you think actually it's better to hedge a little bit there and say Arsenal defensively you still like, and one of those picks should go to a Ben White or a Gabriel or a Saliba?
Yeah, personally, I'd probably double up in attack and have one of the defenders. I think there's so many good players, attacking options.
There are
elsewhere that I don't think we'd need to triple up.
And what about the word for Granit Xhaka, the comeback of all comebacks? I mean, if he was to lift that
fair play to him.
Premier League trophy, how would that story? I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? But I mean, FPL wise, not someone on your radar. Hard to find a spot for him in that midfield, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I saw someone on Twitter, FPL Twitter. I can't recall who now, but can't fit him in right now.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's a difficult one. I guess you could use him as a mate great, couldn't you? And I'm sure you could make the team look pretty awesome as well. But it still feels like there's probably other options there. Okay, so you're expecting, Dan, that this is going to be broadly the case, but Andreas, off the back of his lovely haul in game week 13, you think is probably getting a starting berth, likely to get a starting berth for you in 14. That's the main change in going in ahead of Gueye. Is that the only change that you're kind of anticipating, and hold the transfer?
It is, yeah. That's the current thinking. But I'll obviously take in the European games midweek.
Of course.
I'll update my manager notes on the Fix website.
Yeah.
With my updated thoughts later in the week.
And we'll look forward to reading them, definitely. I mean, the games are thick and fast, aren't they, Dan? It's like, if it's not European football, then we're having mid-game week action in the Premier League, and goodness me, injuries are coming thick and fast, aren't they? And people ruling themselves out of the World Cup left and right, which we saw Rafael Varane go down and struggle. Just a quick thought on Man United. I think I asked you this last time we spoke, what feels like a long time ago. Look, they're in, I think, fifth as of the time of recording, certainly around that place in the league. Defensively, they've obviously been a lot better since Ten Hag changed things after the Brentford drubbing and has brought Casemiro in front of that back four. Martinez and Varane have been the centre-back partnership, nicely priced, etc. Obviously, we're expecting Varane to be out for a while, but any thoughts, Dan, on whether or not Man United are a team, whether or not you'd be at all interested in? Remind you of the fixtures. They've got West Ham at home in 14. They then travel to newly resurgent Villa. How about that? Yeah. Away trip to Fulham, and then Nottingham Forest, Wolves and Bournemouth to follow. So they do have an exceptional run, really, straddling that World Cup period. But is there anyone on your radar from a Man United perspective? And this answer could be very, very short, but I am intrigued.
No, yeah, I haven't seen much football as usual this season, but I did catch the midweek games because they were on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So I watched Man United, and I was impressed with them. So yeah, I am actually looking at them. I guess the obvious is Rashford. Yeah. Is it classed as a midfielder playing up front? He's still quite cheap at around 6.5.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been looking at him. I'm not sure who else had.
I was thinking maybe Diego Dalot. They don't have. I mean, Wan-Bissaka's been injured and also out of favour. Whether or not he's back now, whether or not he'd even be in contention, but I just felt like you mentioned security of minutes. That might be someone who'd be interesting if you're around sort of between that £4 and £5 million price bracket. Might be someone of interest.
Yeah, when on my wildcard, I did look up to game week 16. It was a long time to look, but I did look, and I sort of penciled in a Man United player for these few game weeks. So yeah, I'll be looking at them for sure.
Yeah.
And, maybe after the World Cup.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I do think that Varane loss is going to be big. Victor Lindelof is not a like for Rafael Varane. I don't think that's a stretch to say that. Harry Maguire still not being selected. Even I don't actually know, in fairness to him, whether or not he's fully fit just yet. But still not in the same caliber as Varane. But I just wondered whether or not there was an opportunity there for people looking at Man United assets as a bit of a differential club, to be fair. But it sounds like
I think you're right. I'm cool on them, but I wouldn't mind the pun.
Yeah,
there's a few managers on Twitter who they're excited about United.
Yeah,
it's good. Hopefully they're more success to come soon.
Well, we'll see. It's always good to have a bigger pool of players, I guess, to select from when you're taking your fantasy football FPL transfer decisions. I guess that's always something that we like, having a wider pool so we can move away from a template type feel. But I mean, look, Dan, it's been a great start. Well, I say from my perspective, it looks like a great start. Probably from your lofty expectations, you're probably more modest about it, but it looks like you're well set for another good run. Are there any sort of final thoughts that you want to close out? Any sort of final things about game week 14 which you want to mention before we close out?
No, I just to say, like, if we have had a bad game week like I have in game week 13, just look ahead.
Yeah.
Just move on to the next game week. Look at what you can do to improve it. And so, I'm looking forward to game week 14 already.
Damn right. Yeah, really, really good wise words there. And people can have bad game weeks and bounce back. And there's so much scope as well, isn't there, to make wholesale changes, Dan, aren't there? With the World Cup upcoming, you've got another wild card. You've got free hit. Goodness me, there's going to be blank game weeks to come as well. And lots more opportunities to diverge from the field. So, staying with the pack, I think is really important. But it looks like you're really well set, Dan, and have got a nice bit of money in the bank there, and a team looks pretty flawless to me, mate. So you're so well set. I mean, just as a reminder, guys, there is the Meet the Elite section over on fantasyfootballfix.com, which I'm sure you are all familiar with. If not, do please go along and check it out. Check out Dan's notes and check out the team as it changes throughout the week, as I'm sure it might do as more and more European games are played, and hopefully no injuries to contend with. And hopefully this Spurs game that we're talking over right now doesn't cause us any additional headaches. But look, any final thoughts, Dan?
No.
All right.
Hopefully see you again soon after the World Cup.
Definitely. Maybe. Yeah, it's been a great to catch up, mate. And I'm sure the people who've watched the video will leave nice comments as well to say well done, and to say to wish you well for the upcoming for the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll talk again soon. So guys, do please head over to fantasyfootballfix.com and subscribe if you've not already done so. Do please subscribe to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel. Do please smash a like on your way out, and do please leave a comment for Dan down below. And I will hopefully see you all next week for Game Week 14. Have a great week. Cheers, guys. Bye.